Hi, everyone. Welcome. We'll get started in about a minute or so as everybody's coming in. You'll notice that there's a question and answer there. That is something you can utilize throughout the webinar, but a lot of your questions will be answered as we're going through the presentation. And we'll, again, get started in about a minute or so as people start to trickle in. All right, I still see a couple people coming in, but we're gonna go ahead and get started just so that we are mindful of time. So again, there's that question and answer up at the top of the screen. You're welcome to utilize that. We will be covering a lot of information in this session, so we're happy to answer questions, but we will have a dedicated time at the end to hopefully answer any questions that maybe were not answered in the presentation or you need further clarification on at the end. Just know that we will be running through a lot of information, so holding some of your questions till the end to make sure that it is something that hasn't been covered would be great. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Berlin. I'm just going to go over what we're going to be covering today. So starting with an introduction, I'm going to head on into a look at the city of Berlin, cover academics, student services, as well as accommodation. Then we're going to transition into preparing for your semester abroad. We will also take a look into health, safety, and security, flights, as well as looking ahead and finishing up with a Q&A. So before I get into the detailed information, I just wanted to quickly point out the location you all will be living and studying at, which is the featured image here. Our facilities in Berlin are nicknamed G27 because we are located at Gneisenaustrasse 27. That's our address. So if you hear this term reoccurring, this is what we're referring to. So CIEE is the Council on International Educational Exchange, and we are a US-based study abroad provider with the mission of building bridges between cultures through international education. So the Northeastern program has been in Berlin since 2016, and you all are our 7th cohort, so congratulations. So the CIEE program staff, that's me, Maxine Brayman. I usually go by Max, and I am the senior program manager, and I'll let my colleague Liza introduce herself.
Hi, how are you? So my name is Liza Tapparo. I'm the program coordinator for CIE for Northeast University program for this year. And the person that is like right by my side is Mitchell Welsh. He's going to be the program assistant for Northeastern.
All right, hello everyone. Again, my name is Lexi Walker. I am the program supervisor for NU in Germany. So I will be overseeing on the partner side and making sure program runs smoothly. I also want to take a minute to introduce Alex Brandt. You can see his picture there. Connor will also be dropping his information there. Alex Brandt is our Associate Director of Pathway Programs for the Global Engagement Office, and he will be the point of contact for all the parents in the room. So students share his information with your parents, parents take note of his information, but he will be your point of contact for any information that you need. I'll also pass it over to Connor to introduce himself.
Thanks, Lexi. Hi, everyone. My name is Connor Reed. I serve as the Student Success Manager for the NU in Germany site. So essentially, I will be supervising and supporting our amazing team of coordinators. Our coordinators will be running programming for your students throughout the semester. They'll each have a family group of about 20 to 25 students. So essentially, each one of them will serve as a go-to person and resource for each of your students. And I'm going to pass it over to Dylan Maurer to introduce himself and his role.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dylan Maurer. I am the Associate Director for Global Student Success, and I work directly with Connor on the student life side of the NUN program, directly supporting the student experience. So welcome to the program.
Awesome. So I'm going to hand it over to our coordinators to introduce themselves. So these are 5 of our 6 coordinators. Our SIS coordinator, Savina, is here today to introduce herself as well, but she is actually currently in Berlin right now. But I'll hand it over to the coordinators to introduce themselves. Let's go ahead and get started with Peyton.
Hi everyone, my name is Peyton. I'm so excited to be with all your students while we're in Berlin. I had a twin sister who did the NUN program when she was a freshman at Northeastern, so I know a lot about the program and I'm really excited to be on the other side of it.
All right, Ellie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellie. I'm also a coordinator and I'm super excited for the semester.
All right, Isabella.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be working with your students this semester. I'm Isabella and I'll pass it over to Catherine.
Hi everyone, my name's Catherine. I just graduated from Northeastern and also did the NUN program, so really excited to be on the other side of it and really looking forward to seeing you all in Berlin very soon. Pass it over to Olivia.
Hi everyone, I'm Olivia. I'm also one of the coordinators. I didn't go to Northeastern, but I did study abroad, and I am very excited to kind of watch as your students go through the study abroad journey and start their undergraduate career. And then we can send it over to Sorvina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Servina. I am a Northeastern graduate, class of 2021. And although I did not do the NUN program myself, I did work for the NUN program back in 2021, working for our site in Greece. I'm super excited to be working for our Germany site now. Berlin has been my home now for almost a year, and I'm so excited for all of you to come join us and see how awesome the city is.
Awesome. All right, I'll pass it back over to Connor.
All right, thanks team so much for introducing yourself. Once again, I'll highlight for any of our late joiners, we have a Q&A section in that Zoom, so feel free as questions come up, feel free to ask some questions and we'll answer them as the presentation goes on. So Germany, many of y'all are going to be heading to Germany very soon at the end of this month. About 83 million people live in Germany, which makes Germany the most populous nation in the European Union. It's not too large, though. It takes about 7 to 10 hours to drive across the country. Of course, if you're on the Autobahn, it might take a little bit less because no speed limit for at least part of it. About 30% of Germany is designated forest and woodlands. This is something I'm excited about. I'm planning to buy a bike while I'm in Berlin. There's a lot of green spaces in Berlin and the surrounding areas in Germany. So highly recommend checking out Berlin and Germany's beautiful forests and parks. And one fact about Germany that many of y'all might already know is that it was reunified in 1990 with the falling of the Berlin Wall on October 3rd. So it was split between East and West Germany. And what was unique about Berlin specifically, it was split right down the middle. Some of it was occupied by East Germany and some occupied by West. So it creates a very interesting dynamic within the city that still lives on today. 3.6 million people live in Berlin, which also makes Berlin the most populous city within the European Union. And of that population, about 200,000 students are living there. There's a definite connection between the US and Germany. Approximately 50 million US residents claim German ancestry. Additionally, there are many Americans that call Berlin home. Went out there for a little bit and decide, yeah, they're going to stay for a few more years. So maybe some of y'all will find a home in Berlin as well. Many of you might know that Berlin is known for its art, specifically street art. And in the neighborhood that CIEE G27, our site will be at in Kreuzberg, that's a neighborhood specifically known for a lot of street art. So in Kreuzberg, you can find a lot of hip cafes, thrift stores, and lots of nice streets to walk around. Additionally, there's the East Side Gallery, which is the longest open-air gallery in the world. Especially notable about Berlin, it's a very multicultural city. More than 20% of its residents hold passports from other countries. And we have an amazing transport system in Berlin. I say we, like I'm already there. I'm going to be there so soon. Very excited. And one thing to note as well about the transportation system is that it is open 24 hours. So if you find yourself coming back home a little after midnight, you'll still be able to come home via the transport system. So some things to know with living in Berlin. While we definitely encourage y'all to get on your Duolingo game, learn some basic German so you can interact with some of the locals there, know that it's going to be fairly comfortable to get around using just English. It's very widely spoken throughout the city. Other thing to note is about German alcohol culture. So the drinking age is lower in Germany than it is in the US. As young as 16, students are allowed to drink beer and wine. And as young as 18, folks can drink hard alcohol. While CIEE and Northeastern don't endorse that, if you choose to engage in drinking outside of academic programs, just know that if anything has a negative impact on you or folks around you, just be aware that could end up as a conduct case or any potential legal consequences as well. Do be aware of bike lanes. As much as I'm excited to have a bike, a lot of Europe runs on getting around by bike. So just make sure you're aware if you're a pedestrian walking down the street that you look both ways, maybe multiple times to look out for those bikes because they might not stop for you. Note as well, so in the US, we separate our garbage between 2 or 3 different categories. In Berlin, you'll find that it's separated between 5 or 6 categories. So just note that when you're disposing of your trash, that you're doing so sustainably and you're noting which category of barrel to put your waste in. Note that tap water at restaurants is not common, and ice is also not common as well. So if you're someone who really likes iced water, iced soda, maybe learn to ask that in German at your restaurants and request tap water, but it may not be available. That being said, tap water in Germany is safe to drink. So when you do have tap water, you're more than welcome to enjoy it. And as you know, in the United States, we have a walking signal in Berlin. That's this little green man that has this fun hat on called the Ampelmann. That is one of the few remnants of East German culture that remain in Berlin to this day. So don't cross until you see him allow you to cross the street. And here is a map of the huge public transportation system in Berlin. As you can see, it totally envelops the city. And where that red circle is in the middle bottom area, that's our site, our CIEE site in Kreuzberg. So as you can see, it's very centrally located, but we definitely encourage you all to get outside of the domain of CIEE and explore more of the city. But to chat more about CIEE, I'm going to turn it over to Max.
Thanks, Connor. So academics at CIEE Berlin, we're going to cover quite a few topics. So just to give a general overview, such as academic culture, grading, assessments, schedule, attendance expectation, textbooks, as well as student services. So much like at Northeastern, CIEE Berlin follows US academic culture and structured standards in the classroom. So you can imagine your courses to look like they would at Northeastern with a lecture and a discussion. But what is special about CIEE Berlin is there an emphasis on active learning, which is described as a co-curricular activity or excursion. So for example, if you are taking Holocaust studies, you will kind of see it come to life when you are visiting the Sachsenhausen Memorial Site. Assessments, students will be enrolled in 4 courses. And again, just like at Northeastern, you can see the means of assessment through class participation, projects, homework, midterm and final examinations. And you should expect 2 hours of studying per hour in your course. Grading, again, just like in the US, you are expected to receive grade equivalents of 8 through F. And already just to point out, excessive travel is the =1 reason for poor academic performance. So please be smart and travel during your fall break. Schedule. I know a lot of you really already want to know which courses you're going to be taking. But unfortunately, you will not receive your final class schedule until you arrive in Berlin. But already off the bat, your courses are going to occur Monday through Friday, meeting most likely twice per week for 80-minute sessions. And as I talked about these co-curricular activities, you can expect 7 hours per course. Attendance expectations. So first and foremost, this is an academic program. So it is mandatory to attend your courses as well as co-curriculars. So all absences may result in a lower participation grade. However, if you reach about 10%, CIEE or NUN staff members will contact you to, one, make sure that you are doing all right, and number two, to also remind you to attend class. If you miss over 25%, this will be an automatic course failure. So textbooks. So I just mentioned that you don't have your schedule until you arrive in Berlin. However, your academic advisor may know if one or two courses you are already enrolled in it. So be sure to ask them which courses you're enrolled in. And if you already know, then please purchase a hard copy or electronic version before departure. In any case, Connor is going to drop the NUN program academic handbook, and the list of required course materials are on page 12. So normal students who are at CIEE, whether they are Northeastern or from other institutions, really enjoy studying at our facilities at G27. This could be in the dorm room, in an empty classroom, or even in our U Lounge, which has little private spaces, little desk areas. If you are someone who prefers kind of the library type of feel, then there is one located just a 10-minute walk from our campus called the American Memorial Library. So to continue with the academic portion, we do have services related to that. Our Academic Resource Center is always open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Our academic director and coordinator are there if you have any questions regarding your course, or can even guide you to the tutoring sessions that your instructor will let you know during the first week of class. And I know a lot of students usually don't like to participate in tutoring, but it is something that you all should really, really take into consideration. We also have a student life organization, student life team, and they can direct you to, intramural sports. They can also provide, information on where to purchase a bike, or if you want to give back to the community, they're always there for you. We also have a health, safety, and security team. So if you need any cultural adjustment support or health and welfare assistance, they're always available. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Lai.
Hello again. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for your journey to Berlin. So first of all, please complete my CIE application. You can find it in the link below. That's like my.ciee.org. Please complete it. We really need that information to provide the best trip possible and a really good stay here in Berlin. Also, it's good to have a converters and adapters. You can find them online on Amazon and also, for example, at Target. Sometimes you can buy it also on the airport. So bring one because you're going to need it. Remember to bring your own towels. Most bedding is included in G27, but towels are not, so please bring your own. For packing, we suggest that you just bring the amount of luggage that you can carry on your own. For group flights, we know that you only have one checked bag, so that would be great. I think that's a good amount of luggage. And obviously you can buy another one here if you really want to bring gift home, or I don't know, more clothing that you find here. So have that in mind. And also pack for Berlin weather. Berlin weather is like Boston weather mostly, so pack some cozy clothes, let's say, just in case. So about G27 housing, you're going to be staying in double, triple, quad furnished rooms with ensuite bathrooms. CIE, as I was telling you before, provides pillows, blankets, and other bedding supplies, but towels not, so please bring your own towels. We have 24/7 security. Kitchens and lounges, we have kitchens and lounges on every floor. These kitchens are shared with every student, so please keep it tidy and clean. You also have laundry in the building, a central courtyard, which is very lovely, and a small cafe in the lobby that is open from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can buy their coffee, some croissants, and if you want something perhaps with something different, you can also go to a cafe that's around the corner. So in that picture, you can see one of the shared kitchens and one of the study spaces that you have in your rooms. And that's our lobby. It's a very cozy one. It's really lovely. People really like to hang there. So you're going to meet a lot of students are going to be in the lobby. And next to it, you have our small cafeteria. So arrival and on-site orientation, you're going to arrive in Berlin on Monday, August 28th. And the on-site orientation is going to take place from Monday till Friday, September 4th. You're going to have different orientations about how the safety and security of Team 27, academics, student life, and diversity. And also we're going to have some fun activities, like for example, the Berlin Highlights City Tour. We're going to do some small neighbor tours or KISS tours. You're going to learn a little German with your Crash German course. And we're going to do a day trip to Potsdam. So about programming and excursions, someone was already asking, but we don't have like the exact dates yet for every trip. Overnight trip to Dresden is going to be in early September, and the day trip to Sachsenhausen, which is mandatory also, both Dresden and Sachsenhausen are mandatory trips. It's going to be in early October. We are also going to have a guided tour of the Bundestag, a Berlin Wall Memorial guided tour. We are going to visit Topography of Terror, and we're going to do many more excursions. So this is very important. As Maxine has already said, we really want you to travel during fall break mostly because it's a problem sometimes academically to travel when you are in class. So please, if you want to have a nice long trip, you can use the fall break, which is from October 14 to October 22nd. And also you can stay in Berlin, explore it. It's a beautiful city and fall break is a very good moment to explore the city. I'm going to pass now the mic to Max.
Back to me. All right, so it is mandatory to have a mobile phone while in Berlin, and this is primarily for health, safety, and security reasons. We will be collecting your phone numbers once you arrive in Berlin. And we also want to say that we really recommend you speaking to your family members about kind of maybe checking in once a week, perhaps downloading application services such as WhatsApp in order to keep in touch. You know, you guys are first year university students. This may be the first time ever leaving home. So just speaking about that before departure is always a good idea. SIM cards. So we are going to try to make the process very easy for you. But before I get into the options, please, if you're bringing your phone to Germany, make sure that it is unlocked before you leave your home country. There is also the possibility of purchasing a new mobile phone while you are in Berlin. So the first is in collaboration with our team. We are going to be sending an email to sign up for the SIM cards. And all that would be is just completing the survey. And once you arrive in Berlin, the SIM cards will be ready for you and we can help you install them. We really recommend this option because sometimes students do face a bit of difficulty navigating German. So yes, I highly recommend this option. The other ones are very much independently driven. So you can purchase a SIM card independently. You can also sign up for an eSIM independently. And I know that this is more of a requirement for newer phones, like the iPhone 14 only has that option. Or even sign up for an international phone plan with your US company. And of course, do this before you depart to Berlin. And here is kind of an overview of the prepaid plan SIM card costs. So we are looking at an activation fee of about 20 euros, and usually students go for the medium option, which is about 18 euros per month. And transitioning into residence permits and visas. So if you are a US citizen or EU, EEA national, there's no need to have a residence permit or visa upon entering Germany. All other passports would need their visa before coming to Berlin. With that being said, we will begin the process once you are here, and we will be collecting your passport from August 31st to September 6th for processing, as well as enrolling you into the city. This is a typical German bureaucratic process, but please just have these dates in mind that we will be collecting. We will also collect passports again later in the semester, but this is during the week and only for a few days. So no traveling would be needed in this sense. Banking and budgeting, please already notify your banks where you are going to be staying and for the entire duration, because it is very normal for them to put a hold on your card, so you wouldn't be able to take out money or even purchase a coffee, for example, at the airport in Berlin. Already begin to research any sister companies with your bank. I know that Bank of America has a partnership with Deutsche Bank. So when you go out in Deutsche Bank in Berlin, there are no fees. However, we do have an ATM right in front of G27 if you need quick cash, but in any case, this will have a fee of around €5 per transaction. And also be sure to discuss expectations and set a budget with your family members before you depart. And yeah, so as of last month, the euro and the dollar are pretty much the same. However, I know that in the US, there are several Aldi's discount supermarkets showing up. I would say that from personal opinion, I think that this is usually the cost of supermarkets, which is fairly low. But this is a table to give you a bit of a sense of, typical prices in Berlin. And traveling abroad. Again, I know that you all want to probably travel, and but this is first and foremost an academic program. So if you are, we ask you to complete NUN's program deviation form, as well as CIEE's notification form about a week before your travels. And I think Lexi will give a bit more information on that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch and give a little bit more information about our deviation form. So we are requesting that students submit this a week in advance of their travel plans. This form is first and foremost for health and safety reasons. So if students are traveling and there's something that happens, this is a good way of us knowing where the students are and not worrying about having to track a student down within that time frame. The other reason for this form is it could be that the US has potentially travel advisory, or there's some issues with a student's visa on returning into Germany or back to the US based on where they travel. So knowing this ahead of time just gives us time in order to make sure that everything is set for all those purposes before a student has officially begun that journey. We also know that students might not, guys, that 1 week might be difficult depending on what's going on in your lives. So if you do submit it later, that's not going to be an automatic no, but just want to put ahead of time that that 1 week is going to be the expectation. I'll pass it back over to Max.
Thank you. And just a quick note, it says to required to have a working phone plan. Just note that if you do sign up for the SIM card with CIEE and also with other providers, you will be able to use it within the European Union. All you have to do is turn on roaming, so you can be in Paris and be connected to the world, for example. Next slide, please. So as a student of CIEE Berlin, you're automatically enrolled in that INEX insurance. You pay all costs up front and are automatically reimbursed. The process is a little bit different, but of course, I will actually provide an example. So if you are feeling a bit under the weather, you can approach Northeastern or CIEE's team to go with you to the doctor's office. There are no upfront fees while you're there. And the only thing that you would really have to pay for are the medications that come after. You would just have to save your receipt, and then we can further help you with that reimbursement process. But in general, comparison to the US, costs are very, very low. But yes, this will be in addition to your current coverage. And of course, speak to your family members if you want to obtain additional coverage. So these are some medical facilities nearby. Some hospitals, these hospitals here, such as St. Joseph Krankenhaus and Vivantes, have a lot of doctors and nurses speaking English, so we use them fairly regularly. But of course, as I mentioned in a previous slide, we have our student support staff on CIEE side who is able to provide more specific mental health resources as well as assistance. And even more so, you always have the NUN staff, CIEE staff, as well as other members of the Student Life Office.
All right, so I'm gonna hop in here to talk a little bit about prescriptions. So if you have any medication that you need to bring with you while you're abroad, there's a couple of things to take into consideration with that. First and foremost, the thing I want to mention is that packing it in your carry-on is the best course of action. There's a couple reasons for this. One of that is that anytime you travel internationally, there is always that risk of not having your bag or having it being lost in the travel. And so you don't want to necessarily be worrying about having the medication you need if you are waiting for your luggage to get to you. So packing in your carry-on is a great way to avoid that. We also are encouraging you to get a semester-long supply of whatever medication you have. Sometimes you'll find that what medication you need is not available in Germany, or the dosing that you need is different. And then you'll notice kind of on the side, on the right there, that shipping medications a lot of times is not legal. So if you do not have enough supply for the semester, it's possible that you are not able to get that medication to you. So always talk to your doctor, see about the options of getting that semester-long supply. And also understanding the rules of the country. So I mentioned that certain things that might be legal in the US might not be legal in Germany. This goes for any place that you're thinking about traveling. So if you're spending time on that fall break, you want to pop on over to France, double check what is legal in France and make sure that that is legal, because certain things that might have been legal when you look at Germany might not be when you look at France. There's a couple resources in there. That My Travel Plans at northeastern.edu is a great place to look at if you're not sure. And then also that Garda-World application. I'll talk a little bit more about Garda-World in a second, but I did want to mention it here. It's going to be a great one-stop shop, and it has a lot of resources with things such as medication. The last point that I want to talk about on this slide is letting someone you know trust about your medical history. Now, this is not required, but it's highly suggested. I did want to give just an anecdote of why this might be a good idea. I was traveling with a group of students to Costa Rica, and one of the students on their trip had hemophilia. For anyone who's not familiar, hemophilia is a blood disorder. And so basically it means that if you get injured, you have a possibility of bleeding a lot quicker than another student might. So he was very familiar with his own hemophilia, and he wanted to let us know exactly, not just staff members, but he also mentioned it to a couple of his friends that he was hanging out with during the program, exactly where to find his medication and what the process would be. So for him, if he had an incident, he needed to go to the hospital. So he let everybody know that, and luckily nothing did happen with that student, but it was always nice to have that beforehand knowledge in case there was something that did happen. And talking a little bit about emergency protocols if something does happen. As Max mentioned earlier, there are a bunch of doctors and hospitals that are around G27 and in Berlin. So going to a doctor or hospital, if there are any incidences or any time you might just maybe be feeling under the weather, or if there's an injury or something you want to get checked out, going to a doctor or hospital is going to be a great course of action. You're not alone in that process. You have access to a CIE. So if there's, German translation you need help with, there's someone who can help with that, as well as our coordinators are able to help assist and facilitating that process too. Talking a little bit about parental notification, students, please, if there's something going on with you, keep your parents in the loop. I also want to pop back up to what I mentioned earlier that Alex Brandt is going to be a great resource for parents while students are abroad. So if you have any questions, need to know anything, reach out to your students through Alex, and he's going to be that resource for parents. If there's a true emergency, call 112. 112 is going to be that emergency number in Germany. So this will be, in any case of that emergency situation, 112 is the best course of action. The last piece I want to touch on here is this 24/7 multi-tiered on-call phone and staff. So this is both on the CIE side and the Northeastern side. So to give you kind of a little bit of a breakdown, CIE has RAs that will be living in the residence halls with students. Those RAs, if they need additional assistance helping with any students, they can call up and there is always a CIE staff member who is available to assist them through that process. On the Northeastern side, we will have coordinators who will be also in those residence halls. You met them a bit earlier. So they will always be on call and there to help students. And then if they need additional assistance, either Connor or myself will be on call. So one of us will be on call at all times. And then if we need additional assistance, then we can call up as well. So there will always be someone available to help out students if there are anything that they're dealing with while in Germany. So I mentioned I'd touch back on that Global Safety Support Network. So this is the Grotto World app. You can see kind of all of the pieces that this touches on. It's a great one-stop shop for all health and safety resources. One thing I would say is make sure you have this downloaded. It might be beneficial to download it before you go as you're getting in country. Max mentioned earlier, you'll be getting your phone set up. So already having this on your phone is going to be a great resource. All right. Wanted to touch base a little bit more on flights. So I'm going to be talking about group flights first, and then I'll talk about individual flights in a little bit. But for group flights, your tickets will be issued 2 weeks before departure. So those will be coming. So if you signed up for the group flights, you will be getting those tickets. Arrival to the airport, so whether that's going out of Boston, Newark, New York, or San Francisco, arrival to the airport is on your own. We recommend that you arrive at least 4 hours before your flights depart. You might hear that this is a little different than what you're used to. International, it's always better to arrive a little earlier. Sometimes you'll have to have your passport, checked at check-in, even if you're just bringing carry-on there. The other thing is that know that there are some limitations of how early you need to check your bag in before flights. So double check with your local airport to make sure that you are complying with whatever you need. And there will also be buses in Berlin to pick up students who are on the group flights. So when you get in country, we are aware of when those flights arrive, and there will be buses there for students, and a coordinator will be on the buses in Berlin to help with the arrival process. Lisa mentioned this earlier, but Northeastern only pays for one checked bag. That's part of that group flight, so that's included in when you opted in the group flight. If you are bringing an additional bag, which again, it's always best to pack light. You can always pick a bag later, especially if you enjoy the Berlin thrift scene, which is amazing. You want to bring some clothes back, you can always purchase a bag in there. But if you are bringing another bag, you would have to arrange that separately. Northeastern only has that one checked bag as part of the group flight. So I'm not going to cover these two in depth, but this is just a look at what some of those group flights are for each location. So this is your group flight in Boston. This is that group flight for New York, going out of JFK specifically. This is going out of Newark. And going out of San Francisco. All right, so talking a little bit more about individual flights. So for individual flights, you'll be getting more information, not just from us, but also from CIE about getting to G27 location. It is very centrally located. It is easy to get to, but this is the address of G27 on here. If you do have a travel delay or cancellation, because we are aware of your flights, even those flying individually, please inform us of your new arrival day/time so that we can coordinate your check-in to that student residence. So if you are experiencing anything, let us know. There's a couple ways that you can let us know. So if it is pre-departure, reach out to Alex Brandt. His email's in the chat, but that is his phone number as well. He can handle all of those pre-departure questions that you might get. If it's en route or upon arrival, students will be getting that number emailed to them 1 week before arrival. So that information will be coming to students for which phone number that they can call if they're having any things that they need to update us while they're in the travel process. This is specifically the next one for our group flight students. If you need assistance with those group flights specifically, it is through Advantage Travel. There's that normal business hours phone number, as well as there is the outside of business hours number there. And then if there are any emergencies, so these are going to be like international travel health and safety emergencies, and these are going to be like medical emergencies, big things there, that is a number that is going to be where you want to reach out. So those are some of those emergency numbers for while you're traveling to join us in Berlin. Couple action items. So make sure that you have your passport. Plus print out some color copies of your passport before you go. It's always nice to also have a picture of your passport on your phone. Also make sure you have that NUN letter of enrollment. You can find that in your app status check. So I would have a copy of that as well. A copy of your flight itinerary to make sure you know exactly where you're supposed to go and connections there. And then any relevant visa documentation if applicable. And then also, Lisa mentioned this at the very beginning of the presentation, please complete that My CIE survey. This is going to be extremely helpful as we are anticipating your arrival, making sure we have all the elements to ensure a successful and healthy and safety journey for everybody in Berlin. Looking ahead, so while you're abroad, we have not forgotten that you will be coming back to Boston. There's a couple things to keep in mind that you'll be doing while you're in Berlin this fall. And one of those is registering for your spring 2024 classes. So you will be able to meet with your advisor, register for your classes to go into spring 2024 when you turn to the Boston campus, as well as you'll be able to apply for your spring 2024 housing. Also be on the lookout for information about the spring 2024 orientation. When you come back to Boston, you will have an orientation to get you acclimated not only to Boston, but to Northeastern's campus. And then also applying for that F1 visa if applicable. This mostly applies to international students who will be in Berlin. You might have to start your process applying to study as an international student in the US, but you'll be doing that while you are in Berlin in the fall. And then always check your Northeastern email address. I know a lot of y'all might be right now looking at your general email addresses. If you haven't already gotten the habit of it, please do check your Northeastern email address. Specifically when you're in country, we will only be communicating with you through that Northeastern email address. So those are a couple things about looking ahead. And then I know that we had some questions on here, so I am going to turn over and we will all kind of answer some of those questions that you have had. For the question about if you signed up for the group flight but want to stay in Europe after the semester ends, I would reach out to Alex Brandt, that email in there, and ask him in there, and he'll be able to get you some more information about what that process would look like and what might be possible there too. So this information will be available. This is being recorded, so this webinar will be made available to everybody in attendance. As far as having a simple checklist of all of this info, we don't have a specific checklist with everything in this section there. A lot of it will be referring back to this. You will be receiving additional documentation from Northeastern about those group flights and individual flights and some of those pieces, as well as for CIE and G27. So that will be coming in more of a formal document form. But if you want everything included in this presentation, I would just go back and reference it in the recorded webinar. And anyone else on the panel too, you can hop in if you have questions or if you have answers to the questions as well. Max, do you want to touch base on when they'll be getting to know their roommates?
Yes, that will be upon arrival. I did see a question about the laundry services. So it'll be €2.50 per batch, and it's actually automatically providing cleaner detergent. So it's not something that you also have to purchase in addition to that. There's also facilities nearby, but we're going to be covering a lot about G27, you know, and the neighborhood once you're in Berlin. That will be presented by our student life team.
For questions regarding the group flights, so in your airport, you will just be getting to your group flights separately. That's individually on your own, but all of the people on the group flights, I imagine you'll see all of Northeastern students there when you get there. So you'll be boarding the flights. So let's just say you're connecting into Boston or connecting into New York for the group flight. That connection flight, you will handle all of that check-in process on your own, as well as getting to that group flight. And then when you get into the flight, you will see other students there who are also on that same flight as you.
I see a few questions about overnight guests. There are no overnight guests allowed, even if they are NUN students. They can visit during the day, but they are not allowed to spend the night.
Seeing a question of how often can we travel out of the country and do we need to notify someone if we do? So Lexi chatted a little bit about the program deviation form. That's something we're going to ask you to fill out ideally a week in advance, so we can know where you're going, just to make sure that there are any immigration restrictions, so we can fully approve that. So yes, you would want to notify, you'd want to mention that in the program deviation form, and you'd probably also want to let your student success coordinator know that's assigned to you.
And I'm seeing a question about NU advisors available and registering for spring classes. Yes, the spring classes process, you'll be able to register and have access to your advisor through that. There is also, which you'll learn more about through all orientation, but there's Mentor Hub as well, that if you have questions about that process or having any trouble, there will be people available to help facilitate that process for you while you're in country too. For the question about being on the same group flight but booked separately, while you're there, you'll see other Northeastern students. However, the bus transportation is specifically for those on the group flights.
Seeing a couple questions on budget. We don't recommend any specific budget because that's going to be really based on your own personal needs. You might be finding yourself spending a lot more if you want to get a bunch of new clothes, new food, or ordering food out a lot, and you'll be spending less if you're going to be cooking. Cursory look of a website, it said the typical budget without rent is about €1,000. But again, that's going to be less or more depending on personal needs. So go with whatever budget feels best for you. I see a question, arriving independently, what time should we arrive at CIEE on August 28th? Max Lysa is 10 a.m. The first, is that when students can arrive?
Sorry, I was muted. I think that they can arrive from 9 a.m. We're going to be there, so they can arrive. Their rooms will be ready, yes, around noon probably. So, but they can arrive since 8, 9 if they arrive very early. There are some questions regarding CIE portal. I will put it in the chat where you can reach if you have any questions regarding that, and if you have like any issue, or if the CIE portal you had a problem with it. So I will put that information now in the chat so you can get to enrollment.
And Liz and Max, I see some questions about where sending like forms or additional information. Does one of you want to touch base on that through the CIE portal?
Sorry, all that information you can ask directly to custom enrollment. I will put the email right now in the chat. So if you have any questions regarding the portal or any documentation that you think you're missing, or any questions about it, you can ask directly to them. But give me a second that I will put it right away.
I see a question about documents you should make photocopies of. I would say anything that you think might be beneficial for when you're in country. So think about like if you, for some reason, don't have access to your wallet or you left it back, you know, at the G27 complex, what would you maybe want to have available to you? So again, passport's a definite recommendation of one, but if you have anything that you need as far as like health and safety, you know, having a picture of your prescription, if you're bringing anything that you would need, that you think personally you would need, because that's going to be dependent on student, I would make a photocopy of.
I also see a question about gyms. So during your orientation week, we're going to have a lot of different organizations come for like a big old lunch with all the students, and there will be gym representatives that we usually work with. We have a special relationship because usually if you sign up for a gym membership, they want you to stay there for a year. So it's very difficult to get out of these contracts. However, our partnership organization is pretty much down the street, pretty good costs, and allow you to cancel, you know, when you leave Berlin. I also see a question about toiletries provided by CIE, basic like soap and toilet paper. No, but honestly, there are so many shops nearby, even one just like 30 seconds across the street, where you can buy these basic toiletries. And I'll continue for one more. Yeah. Are there any other university students studying at CIE Berlin? Yes, but Northeastern program is the majority. They are participating mainly in Open Campus, which I'm not sure if you all are familiar with CIEE itself, but they are students usually third or fourth years from all across the US. It's more of a independent study abroad program. So they are coming from different universities and they're going to be living, some of them will be living on the first floor and the others will be living off campus. So you will have some interaction with them as well.
Seeing a question about, so students on individual flights, yes, you will be getting to campus on your own. There will be more information coming about that process though. So detailed information about exactly how to get to that, options of how to get there as well. About assuming your roommate on the C application most likely be a roommate. We are trying to accommodate all of the preferences and requests that students had as far as roommate preferences. There is not a guarantee of anything, but know that we are doing our best to make sure that we are taking every request into and trying to accommodate those. As far as the question about emails for roommate requests on the housing questionnaire, I'm not sure about that being editable. I'll turn that over to Max and Lisa to see if that's something that they can edit.
I would recommend contacting the custom program team at the email that Liza probably already put it in the chat.
See a question about how many kids will need to share one kitchen. Approximately 40 people per kitchen. That being said, not everyone is going to be cooking all the time, so it's very unlikely you're going to see 40 people all at the same time in that kitchen, so just be aware of that. I see a question about diversity. We don't have a ton of information. Admissions has a lot more of the information on demographics. I can say that about 10% of the folks that are going to be with us are international students, fairly split across gender, and many students who identify as non-binary as well.
Sorry, I have one here about the meals. Meals are not provided by CIE, so everybody is going to be cooking in the shared kitchens. We also have some activities that we are going to provide food, but most of the time it's mostly cooking by you, on your own.
I see a question about staying with other Northeastern NUN students. I would generally operate on the assumption that this is not possible. Just like our site, students are there usually for academics and are in Northeastern housing. And so there are usually limitations as far as guests. So for example, I believe it was Lisa who mentioned overnight guests are not allowed within G27. I see a question about textbooks. So one of those pieces will be the advisor. So in that academic handbook that Connor dropped in the chat there, I would talk to your advisor if you know already some specific classes that you're going to be in that handbook that has the list of textbooks for some of those courses. Also, a lot of times students prefer to do PDF versions. So you should be able to access those at any point, but your academic advisor right now is going to be the best resource for textbooks regarding your schedules there.
One thing I'll just say on our end, a lot of questions are popping up. So if we missed your question for some reason, please feel free to ask it again so we can address it.
I have some questions about kitchens and kitchen suppliers. So yes, we have pots and pans, we provide that. There are not fridges in the bedrooms. We are not microwaves in the bedroom. Everything that is like a kitchen appliance is going to be in the kitchen. Yeah.
I see a question about, so housing is a mix of doubles, triples, and quads. And it's a pretty solid mix of all different types of those rooms. About room checks being conducted, there will be rounds done by our coordinators, not specific to room checks, but if there is something happening within the G27, know that it will most likely be known about and addressed by RA CIE as well as coordinators with us.
How will bod food be separated per person? You know, this is again, just recognizing you're going to be sharing a space with quite a few folks. So just getting in the habit of labeling your food. You know, that's something with you on your floor, like you'll be having a floor meeting, and these are some things that you can discuss with some folks on your floor. But we definitely recommend labeling your food.
I have a question regarding proficiency in German. I will say it will depend a lot on how much time you study German, basically. There are people that get a very good level in 6 months, and there's people that perhaps stay here for 4 years and stay in an A1 level. So I think it's very personal, and it depends a lot on the time that you want to put into the study.
as Connor said, we're kind of working our way through questions. There's quite a few that came in. So again, if you do not see yours answered, feel free to pop it back in the Q&A.
So again, I see a question of if we have questions after this webinar, is there an email where we can ask questions specifically for the NUN program in Berlin? Again, the best person to reach out for that is going to be Alex Brandt. I shared that in the chat at 11:07 a.m. So feel free. And also he's, again, as Lexi mentioned earlier, he's the main point of contact for parents. So please reach out to him with those questions.
I do see a question about mattress size for bedding. Bedding is provided, pillow and sheets. If you do want to purchase additional, you know, you should buy it in Berlin instead of bring it with you. Yeah, I would recommend that. And also, is there anywhere to play tennis or European football? Yeah, so you can approach the student life team with these questions, and I'm pretty sure during student orientation, they will already be directing you to locations in Berlin that even speak English if you want to play like intramural sports or something.
About the classes, at the time that they start and end, it depends a lot on what's going to be your curriculum. So you're going to have classes in the morning and also in the afternoon probably. So for that, you'll have to wait until you have like all of your classes, yeah, put together.
Max or Lisa, do you have any pictures of the rooms for CIE that you'd be able to share?
I can see if there are additional photos on the website. That could be a possibility. Let me check real quick.
As far as how many people on the floor, that depends by which floor that you're on. But assume that it's going to be between, it depends again by floor. Most of them around 40. There are some that are less than that though.
There's a question about cleaning supplies. I believe Lisa mentioned this a little bit earlier. CIEE does not offer cleaning supplies. So those will need to be purchased by yourself.
I seen a question here about who should I contact if I'd like to arrive on campus, drop off my luggage before the 28th. We don't have a place to store luggage. So I think that you should come on the 28th with your luggage. If you're arriving earlier on the 26th or 27th, I don't think we can provide that. But please, you can send an email to us just in case.
And Kristen, did you want to touch base on revising the MyCIE submissions?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat as well, but if you have questions on MyCIE, you can reach out. It should be in the chat for everyone, custom enrollment at ciee.org, and our team will be happy to help you with any questions that you have on that.
There's another question about if you can use your driver license here. I imagine this is only for as an ID. I assume that you can, but I think it's a lot better to use your passport just in case. It's better to have a copy made, a color copy made of your passport and go and have it always in your pocket.
Just going back.
Oh, good.
Just going back to the question about more photos of CIEE Berlin and G27. Actually, if you follow CIEE Berlin on Instagram, there's a small section titled Housing, and it's kind of giving more insight to the facilities, as well as some pictures of more dorm pictures per se.
And Max or Lisa, would you go ahead? Max or Lisa, would you be able to touch base on the appliances in the kitchen there?
Yeah, Liza already mentioned. Oh, sorry. You can go, Liza.
No. You go. I don't mind. So yes, you have all the appliances are going to be in the kitchen. You can't have microwaves or refrigerators or anything like that in your bedroom. You're going to have pots and pans, microwaves, a stove, all the normal stuff you will find in a kitchen. I'm thinking if there's something else that I should tell you about it. Coffee, you're going to find coffee in the cafeteria. I don't know, Max, if I'm forgetting something about the kitchen that you would like to share.
Yeah, it's more of a preference of what you want to purchase. I know that you can go to IKEA or even more of a discount place to buy a French press. Of course, you just fill it with water. We do have cafes just all around the area, as well as coffee available at the cafe. But I will just switch on over to this question about, can I have a family friend come to the dorms and help me move in? We would not recommend that because the first day is, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of other students. You want to, socialize with them. They'll all be doing the same thing, bringing their luggage up to their dorm rooms. But it is pretty packed schedule. So if you are planning on, let's say, hanging out with this friend, they shouldn't be in the presence of the orientation section. So I would say, of course, she can maybe drop you off. She or him can maybe drop you off in front of G27, but I think this would be a good opportunity for you to, come into place and just discover G27 for yourself.
And then Max and Lisa, does one of you want to kind of address about buses for group flights?
What was the question exactly for group flights?
There were a couple ones about individuals flights and wanting to have access to the bus, a group flight.
Yes. Well, if you complete the survey for when you are arriving in Berlin, we can better accommodate, if there are spaces available on the group buses, but it doesn't guarantee you a spot. So I believe that there will be this document that shares how to get to G27 if you're using public transportation, and it really isn't that difficult. In my personal opinion, it costs about €4, and there will, be a coordinator at the airport to help you with that process, or even to accompany you to G27 if you require it. But yes, just fill out the flight arrival information on My CIEE if you haven't done so already, and we can see if there are availabilities on the group transfer, but this does not guarantee it.
So regarding, you read somewhere that before the program starts, it is not advised to travel to Europe. What if we have been in Europe already and will be again to visit family? Is this a problem? The issue with that is that you have, I am assuming that you're a USA citizen. You only have 90 days to be in Europe per year. So please correct me, Max, if I'm wrong, but I think that the issue there is that you're not going to be able to leave Germany afterwards. So I will advise you to just, if you want to move around Europe, you're going to have to move around Germany. That's it. Until you have your residence permit done, then you can start moving around again. But have that in mind, that you're not going to be able to leave Germany after you have your residence permit.
Yes, because there is a 90-day entrance and travel into Europe. And since you American citizens, or just in this case, American citizens enter Europe, say that, your 90 days are up while you are on the program and we haven't completed the residence permit process in Berlin, that means that you will only be able to travel in the country. You won't be able to do international travel because you've already, quote unquote, like used up those 90 days. So it's just strongly advised to not do so much travel. But of course, if you're just aware of this and also, let's say, not so disappointed in the fact that you can travel around Germany, it's also a great option, but just keep this in mind, please.
And
just
also there,
oh, sorry. Okay, just want to highlight there's some academic questions coming up, such as how to get in contact with my academic advisor, questions about textbooks, things like that. So I would recommend reaching out to your specific college's email. There's also an Explore program email for academics, and that'll go to kind of their main advising center. So I just shared that link in the chat. So we definitely recommend reaching out to them.
So I just put the link for CIE Facebook page, so you can find it there in the chat. And also, how long does the resident permit take? It doesn't depend on CIE, it depends on German government, basically. So it may take 3 weeks, it may take a month and a half. It doesn't, we don't really know. I mean, it depends a lot on what the government says.
At this point, we have no more open questions. If anyone wants to ask, we'll wait 1 more minute, and after that, we'll close.
I don't think. Sorry, Lexi, do you want to say something?
No, I was just going to see if you had any other.
Sorry. So traveling outside the Schengen zone shouldn't affect you at all. I mean, if you have your resident permit already done, you can travel wherever you want, basically. So that's not an issue. The only issue is when you don't have your residence permit done and you have already used your 90 days in the EU, that's when you have a problem. But I mean, you shouldn't have like any issue if you already have your resident permit.
There's a question on if academic workload is relatively easy to manage. I'll just say that because this is a first-year program, and there, many times people will study abroad their junior year where they've gotten finished with a lot of their core requirements. In this case, you'll be doing core requirements in addition to anything related to your program of study. So it might be a bit more rigorous academically than what a typical third-year program would be. So I wouldn't say it would be an easy workload. So that's why, getting on top of any time management strategies or any of those planning tools you can ahead of time, so you could be ready to, fully focus on your studies while in Berlin.
And to the point too, I think I'd refer back to, Max talked about it earlier, but, have for every, hour class time, expect, that you're going to be spending about 2 hours there. And there are also a bunch of resources Max mentioned available. And you'll have assistance to and access to coordinators, to help if you're struggling with anything.
So there's a new question about move-in at noon. If so, what do we do between the time we get off our flight and the time we have till then? So I believe many of us already mentioned, you are welcome to arrive any time of the day on Monday. However, you will have a packed schedule, and you will meet people that maybe want to just explore the neighborhood or go to the shop to already pick up those toiletries or pick up some food. But of course, once you arrive, you'll get settled in and we'll begin the orientation activities. And
yes, also sorry.
Go ahead.
On the first day, we're going to have a small neighborhood tour, and we're going to have some special remarks about T27 and how everything is done. So we're going to have a lot to do on the first day, don't worry. There was a question about how bike accessible Berlin is. Berlin is really bike accessible. You can bike around like almost everywhere. And you can get, for example, next bikes that they're like, you rent them by the hour, or you can get like something like Swapfist. You can rent them like, I think for a month, they're around like 23 euros or something like that.
I see a question. If you are a US and EU dual citizen, do you need to worry about the 90 days and residence permits? You do have to register with the city of Berlin. So we will collect your EU passport in this sense. But with the 90 days, you are an EU citizen, you're able to travel more than 90 days. So the answer would be no. And I see another, my parents will be coming with me in Berlin for the first week. So there will be times that we can go in and out and meet them. Honestly, I would say that the main opportunity would probably be in the evenings, because this is the start of your, whole academic journey, and every day we'll have mandatory sessions of orientation. So I would say probably only in the evenings, probably to get dinner with your family. So I have another question. So we can't travel until we attain the residence permit, but the permit might take up to a month, or do we only need the residence permit after the 90 days are up? That's a very complicated question, but so if you are not traveling before coming to Berlin, I mentioned certain dates in the residence permit section where we'll just collect your passport for, I think it's like 4 or 5 days. And then we will collect it again later in the semester to finalize the process. In between, you can travel with your passport. Of course, we won't be keeping it for the entire month, but this is only if you haven't used up all those 90 days. This is why we are recommending to be, have this in mind. So say if you are, traveling in Europe for 2 months and then you're going straight into Berlin, then you will be kind of stuck in Germany, because you won't have those rights to travel throughout Europe or internationally after those 90 days. But if there's any more specific questions, of course, this will be brought up during orientation with the student life team, who can go into detail.
There's a question on, do most parents bring their students to Berlin? I would say no. The two most common times for parents to visit would be for fall break and Thanksgiving. Of course, if you've already made plans for that first week, we're not going to ask you to change those plans. We will say, as Max said earlier, during that new student orientation, it's going to be very busy, a lot of programming early on as students are getting adjusted to their new home and to their new community. And we do recommend, as many opportunities early on for students to engage in that new community as these new connections are forming. But we do recommend, fall break and Thanksgiving. Those are two really great times for parents to come visit in Berlin.
We have another question. Do we also have a few days off for Thanksgiving, or do we only have a fall break? So they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Germany. So I believe that there may be some classes canceled that day, but it really depends on the instructor. And of course, this will be communicated during orientation week. So fall break would be the primary, let's say long-term like vacation days. And of course, if you, there's a high possibility you have courses from Monday through Friday. So a weekend would be only, Saturday and Sunday for 2 days. It could be that you have, let's say, like a late start on a Monday, but again, it is very difficult to manage. Like if your flight is delayed or gets canceled, then you miss, your Monday courses. So you always have to have this in mind when you're planning, some vacation days.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of follow up too on that follow-up question about traveling on the weekends and the attendance policy. If you miss class period based off of like flight or travel, that is not an absence that will affect your attendance policy, missing your class because of that. So that's one reason that we have encouraged kind of throughout this presentation that we know you're in Europe. We know that students want to travel, but as much as you can consider that fall break, I would consider it so that you're not running into any potential issues of travel delays that would lead to affect your academics.
So I see another question. If you get sick, does that affect your attendance? Yes. I believe that on the CIEE side, nothing is excusable. But I believe that Northeastern, I'm not sure if Lexi or Connor can speak on this, but overall, if you are sick, we kindly ask you to contact our staff, even the academic director regarding this. But I'm not sure if there's anything to add on the Northeastern side.
Not anything necessarily to add. For your classes, you'll have a professor, just kind of like you do here. You can always communicate with them as well. But as far as policy goes, and affecting attendance does not necessarily mean it's going to overarchingly affect your grade. It's just there's a participation policy that Max covered earlier with that attendance as well. Right, I see that it looks like all the questions that were there have no more questions that have popped in. So we will be kind of wrapping things up. Again, you all have access to this presentation, and we've included a lot of resources in that chat. And so let's see, there's something pop up here. And I'll let, again, Max too, like the CIE attendance policy is the policy that you will be following. And that attendance policy does not have a traditional excused absence. That being said, you will be working with your professors, you'll have a relationship with them, you can always communicate to them. Just because you have something in your attendance policy does not mean it will necessarily affect the outcome of your grade always as well. That will be something that you'll have in your individual classes. And I'll let Max kind of follow up with that as well.
Yeah, and the academics team will be presenting during, orientation week, so you can ask these questions directly to them.
Yes, I just would like to add that it's a very case-by-case situation. So we hope that no one gets sick and everything's going to be great. So, I mean, in the case that something happens, we are able to discuss it and you're going to have help to work things around. But I mean, that's are the policies that we have right now.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. Again, we've got resources. If you have questions that pop up after the presentation, feel free to reach out to us. And thank you again for attending. We're really excited to see everyone in Berlin. And we're in the month of August, so in a couple weeks. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.